Hello all, welcome back. We're talking about Civil War spoilers. Official spoiler warning. If you have not seen Civil War yet, why haven't you seen it? Go check it out, it's amazing. You're still here? Alright. Guess you've seen the movie? Let's talk spoilers. So the movie starts out and you get that awesome fight scene with Crossbones, and what I really liked about that scene was how it showed the new Avengers operating. Because yeah, we've seen them with Thor and Hawkeye and the Hulk and Iron Man and all them, but it's a relatively new crew. And I like seeing that. They've built up a rapport with each other in the last year or so that they've been operating together. I also mentioned in my review that there were some scenes in this movie that were really emotional. The scene for me that really made me well up and start to be like, oh gosh, this is hitting me. It was in that scene. It was at the end when Captain America has Crossbones on the ground. Crossbones lights that grenade or whatever it was, and Scarlet Witch can contain him, flies him up, doesn't get him up quite in time, and that building blows up. And it was seeing the shock and horror on all their faces, especially Scarlet Witch when she puts her hand over her mouth and she's just horrified at what she just did. That was really what got me. It was Scarlet Witch's reaction, so great job, Elizabeth Olsen. In this movie, you bring back General Ross, Sergeant Mustache from The Incredible Hulk. I gotta rewatch The Incredible Hulk, I think, but it's a different General Ross. He seems more lighthearted this time around. Granted, he's not on a wild manhunt for Bruce Banner. I mean, he's kind of on a manhunt for Captain America. And he doesn't have much love for the Avengers in general. Like Tony Stark, even after the whole airport fiasco, he's like, you're lucky you're not in one of these cells, Stark. But again, I love the dynamic between Cap and Bucky in this movie. You can tell that Bucky wants to be good, and then after the bombing in Vienna, Cap tracks him down in Bucharest, and Bucky tells him I wasn't the guy in Vienna, and then those special ops dude come in and they try to take Bucky and Cap, and Bucky's just cleaning house with these guys. Cap's like, dude, you're gonna kill someone. I like when characters have moral compasses like that. But it was kind of funny seeing like Bucky about to kill someone and then Captain America coming in and fixing the situation really quickly, like when Bucky threw that one guy over the edge, and then Cap had to like reach down there and pull the guy back up. We also got our first action scene with Black Panther, which was incredible. I mean, Chadwick Boseman was amazing as Black Panther. One of my concerns going into this movie was I didn't want it to be too predictable. I didn't want them to all become friends at the end, and they don't all become friends at the end, but I was also worried that they weren't gonna be worried about killing each other because they all have this history with each other. Like in the airport fight scene when Black Widow and Hawkeye are fighting, I believe this was in the trailer, but Black Widow is on the ground and she's like, we're still friends, right? Hawkeye goes, depends on how hard you hit me. But Black Panther, that dude was, when people were fighting Black Panther, like when Hawkeye at the airport scene was fighting Black Panther, I was like, I don't know if Hawkeye's making it out of this movie alive. I legitimately don't know. You get the sense that Black Panther would rip any of them to shreds if they crossed him. And again, the stuff that Tony Stark's going through in this movie, that secretary lady or whatever that approached him at the beginning, telling him, oh, my son died in Wakanda. I thought that was a little weird how Tony held on to that for so long. Like I expected Tony to hold on to it for a little bit, but that was one of the driving forces for him. It does make more sense. Like Iron Man 1 Tony, that wouldn't have fazed him too much. But Tony Stark post-Avengers and post-Avengers Age of Ultron, I can kind of see how that would get under his skin. And obviously he's got some issues with Bucky too. But that scene when Iron Man's like, all right, I'm on your side, when they're at the Siberian fortress, Daniel Bruhl shows them what happened on December 16th, 1991. You see it at the beginning of the movie, the Winter Soldier crashing that car, stealing the super soldier serum. And you find out later that that was Tony's parents. The bummer, I got 2 spoilers for this movie in one day. One of them was I was cruising Target this morning just looking for Legos. I was like, hey, well, okay, I was looking for a t-shirt. But anyways, I'm at the Lego section and I got this cool little like Black Panther and Bucky set. But there was one set that had the airport battle and they had a giant Ant-Man on the front. And I was like, oh, that's interesting that they would like emphasize Ant-Man on the cover of this one. But you know at the bottom of the Lego set boxes, how it shows all the figurines? It had Giant Man, then Ant-Man, and all the other ones. And then I was just like, oh, what the crap, Ant-Man's gonna become big? I didn't want to know that. I could find that out in the movie. So ultimately, I have to walk around like that if I want to be free of spoilers from this movie. But then the second spoiler, this one's kind of my own fault. But so my friends were having a Captain America marathon. That's a mouthful. Captain Americathon, that's what we're gonna call it now. But anyways, we're watching the first Avenger, and I had the Marvel Cinematic Universe Wikia page open on my phone, had a picture of Howard Stark up there because I want to know more about Howard Stark. And it gives you, like, at the top, it says date of birth, date of death. The date of death was December 16th, 1991. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting that they have a date on that. Like, I know Hydra killed his parents. I wonder if they explained that more in, like a linked comic book or something like that. Then this movie opens up, and the first thing you see just says 1991. Then I was just like, all right, I guess this is the movie where you find out what happens. So that wasn't really a big reveal for me at the end of the movie, but it was still heartbreaking seeing Tony's eyes and just his face unravel as he saw that happen. And really put yourself in Tony's shoes. If you saw this guy standing right next to you beating the living poop out of your parents, ultimately killing them, yeah, you would want to kill that guy too. But then look at it from Cap's perspective. It's his friend Bucky who he thought died in World War II. He's all alone in this modern world, and then all of a sudden his best friend comes back into his life, and this guy's trying to kill him. Yeah, you would probably want to defend him too. I love the political overtones in this movie. I loved in Peggy Carter's funeral when Sharon Carter goes up and she gives that whole thing about like, how did you progress in a society that didn't want you to progress? And Peggy ultimately tells her something like, compromise when you need to compromise, but in situations where you can't compromise, don't move. And that scene really spoke to Steve. It was like, that's the situation I'm in. I cannot let this Sokovia Accord bill pass. The movie also hits a couple of other emotional beats. It's interesting because when Rhodey falls out of the sky, which you see in the trailer, but he's the one who asked Vision to shoot Falcon. Falcon dodges it, and Rhodey's the one that takes the hit. It wasn't so much once Rhodey hit the ground and he was bleeding out of his nose, like, yeah, that scene was sad. But it was before that, when you see Rhodey get hit with Vision's beam, and he's falling, and you just see Don Cheadle's face. It is black. It's black all around him, and Don Cheadle is just freaking out. Then Iron Man goes for him, Falcon goes for him, but they're too late, and you literally see him plummet to Earth like an asteroid. The whole Scarlet Witch and Vision thing, I know they have a relationship in the comics. I don't really know what they were hinting at in this movie, but I feel like it was well done because it could really go either way. You get the sense that Vision does have a thing for Scarlet Witch, but that doesn't mean Scarlet Witch is going to reciprocate it. Maybe she will later down the road, but I do like how there were seeds planted for that relationship in this movie. I don't really know if I have to mention Spider-Man in this review because I think I hit everything I wanted to say about Tom Holland in my spoiler-free review, but hey, it gives me another chance to tell you how awesome Tom Holland was. His banter with Tony Stark when they're just in his little bedroom, I thought that was hilarious when Tony Stark's about to leave and then he zaps his arm to the door. I loved it because they're both such quick talkers and they're both really quippy, so it was hilarious watching those two interact. And also when he's fighting Bucky and the Falcon in the airport, I loved Falcon's line. He's like, I don't know if you've ever been in a fight, but there's usually not this much talking. He felt very Deadpool, like a PG-13 Deadpool, because you can tell, and you got the vibe, and I'm gonna reference it, X-Men Origins Wolverine, terrible representation of Deadpool. But at the beginning, before he gets his mouth sewn shut for some stupid reason, the guys in the elevator when they're doing that first raid mission, you could tell they were all just like, okay, when is this Wade Wilson guy just going to shut up? That's kind of the vibe I got with Spider-Man in this movie. I thought that was great. And I loved the final confrontation. I mean, there were so many cool scenes with Bucky pinning Iron Man against the wall, trying to rip out his arc reactor, and then Iron Man totally slicing off his metal arm. But then after that, when Cap and Iron Man clash, there's the one scene that is straight from the Civil War comic title page. There's a couple parts where Cap has the upper hand, then Iron Man has the upper hand, and you ultimately don't know who's gonna win because they're really evenly matched. But then at the end, Cap gets the drop on him, and he is just beating the snot out of Iron Man. He rips off his mask, and for a second, I thought we were gonna have one of those weird Martha scenes where the fight just kind of ends because they find some common ground or whatever, but that's not what happens. Cap picks up his shield, looks like he's gonna slam it right on Iron Man's face, and then he puts it in the arc reactor, totally making Tony's suit just powerless. And I thought that that was a great way to end it. Cap just falls to the side, he's exhausted, he grabs Bucky, they're about to leave, and then Tony tells him like, that shield doesn't belong to you, you're not worthy of that shield. My dad made that shield. Cap just drops the shield and leaves. He gives Tony the shield. Captain America is now a fugitive of his own country. In this movie, we saw Captain America become a criminal. And I feel like this movie totally encapsulates the whole arc that Steve Rogers has been through since the first Avenger. After he slams the arc reactor down, it just stops for a moment and just pauses like he's shaken. You can tell that this is a man that he started out great and pure, and that guy is still in there, but he's just been tarnished by the weight of war and destruction and just all this political uncertainty that's in this modern era. And all that stuff has taken its toll on Steve, and he's broken down a little bit. He's not the same guy that he was at the beginning of the first Avenger. Then at the end of the movie, Rhodey gets those bionic legs or whatever. He's starting to walk. He'll probably be fine in the War Machine suit, so he'll use that. Otherwise, he'll be in a wheelchair. But then Cap goes and he frees the rest of the Avengers from that prison, takes them all to Wakanda. I'm guessing everyone that was Team Cap, so Ant-Man, Hawkeye, all of them, they're now fugitives of the United States as well. But it seems like Black Panther's okay with them chilling there, which makes me wonder, like, did Black Panther sign the Sokovia Accords? I know his dad did, but when his dad did, does that mean that T'Challa still has to abide by those rules because they weren't done by him? Can he undo that? So that way if the US does come knocking, he can be like, hey, I never agreed to that. I'm not part of the United Nations. You guys get out of my kingdom. I don't know, but it looks like Wakanda's a pretty safe place for the Avengers to hide out. The mid-credit scene, Bucky goes back into freezing because he's like, I can't control this. There's those trigger words, and if someone says them, then I'm just gonna go crazy and I don't want to hurt anybody else. So until they figure out how to fix me, I'm going back in the ice. At first I was kind of like, why couldn't they just put this at the end of the movie? Why did it have to be the mid-credit scene? We could have saved it for something more special. But I did like the very end of that scene when Steve is talking to T'Challa and he's like, is this gonna be a safe place? Or T'Challa's like, I'll be fine. And then it pans to the shot of the Black Panther statue, just for the shot of the statue, because that statue was legit. And then the other post-credit scene, you got Spider-Man dealing with a black eye, and Aunt May comes in, is asking him all these questions, like, oh, just some kid named Steve, you're not gonna know him, he's from Brooklyn. But then once Aunt May leaves the room, he pulls his web shooter back out, and there's this beam shooting up, and it's the Spider-Man logo, which I don't know if that logo is like specific to a comic book run or a TV show, or does that supposed to indicate something? I know it indicates Spider-Man, but is it anything more than that? I'm also wondering, because the movie Spider-Man Homecoming is the title of the solo Spider-Man movie. One of Bucky's trigger words in this movie was homecoming. Is that tied in at all? Is Hydra gonna be part of the new Spider-Man solo movie? Or is it just gonna be set around a homecoming dance like everyone's theorized? I guess it could go either way, but point being, I loved Captain America Civil War. Can't wait to see where they're gonna take this universe next. We got Doctor Strange coming in November, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 after that, so it'll actually be a little while before we see the characters from this movie in another movie. After Guardians, you got Spider-Man. Finally, we're gonna see Robert Downey Jr. in that, and Tom Holland, obviously. And then Thor, I believe, with Mark Ruffalo, so we'll be able to catch up on Thor and the Hulk next year. But yeah, I guess these characters aren't going to be in a movie for a while. But how about this? Comment down below, tell me who your favorite character to watch in this movie was. I'd probably say either Spider-Man or Ant-Man. So let me know who your favorite character was in this movie, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, you can click subscribe and check out some of my other stuff, and I will catch you guys next time.